The Alliance for Social Equity and Accountability, ASEPA, is petitioning President Akufo-Addo for the removal of the Speaker of Parliament over what they are describing as breaches in procurement processes and breach of power. In a statement released not long ago, the group accused the Speaker, Professor Michael Quay, of failing to do due diligence in the processes and also accused him of some malpractices. I have a copy of that statement with me, and I'll take you through them. Thompson Mensah, who is the Executive Director of ASEPA, Alliance for Social Equity and Accountability, will also be joining us. But let me quickly take you through what the statement says, because we'll be getting a response from him. And it's quite a long list, but I'll try and take you through some of the paragraphs. In the first paragraph, it says, I write to you, Mr. President, as a Ghanaian citizen with full rights under Article 4 of the 1992 Constitution to invoke the powers of the Constitution of the Republic for the removal of the current Speaker of Parliament, Professor Aaron Michael Quay, for violating the public procurement procedures of this country and for abuse of office and alleged malpractices. Mr. President, the Speaker of Parliament is, as Chairman of the Parliamentary Service Board, without the necessary approvals from Parliament and the Public Procurement Authority, commenced the processes of the construction and of the new chamber, independently coerced the finance minister to make budgetary allocations, and also single-handedly handpicked an architect to produce the designs of the now famous new chamber of parliament. And that is where we need to get a lot of clarifications and some evidence, so we don't drag ourselves into legal battles. Ms. Thompson, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you, Gifty. Thanks for having me.
So, like I said, let me now take your explanation and evidence, perhaps paragraph after paragraph, but this paragraph is quite curious. In this particular paragraph, you accuse the Speaker of Parliament of independently coercing the finance minister to make budgetary allocations and to single-handedly handpick an architect to produce the designs. This is a very serious allegation. Where is the evidence?
Yes, of course, there are evidence. I think that most of this evidence is in the letter that the Speaker of Parliament wrote to the President, to inviting the President for a sword-cutting ceremony of this new chamber. And in that letter, the Speaker of Parliament told the President that the Finance Minister had made budgetary allocations for the construction of this particular chamber. Okay. Now, if you listen to the President, also in a statement by the President says that he does not support the construction of this chamber. The executive has, however, issued, a statement that, they do not support the construction. And so how does something or a project which the executive is not in support of, the finance minister, end up making budgetary allocations? Okay,
so that's a question. That's a legitimate question that you're raising. But when you say he independently coerced the finance minister, that is a categorical statement that requires much more than the two letters that you referred to, don't you think?
Yes, of course, of course. And I think that if the Speaker has any other proof that he did not coerce the finance minister to make budgetary allocation, then we must be asking the finance minister how he made budgetary allocations for a project which the executive does not also support.
So why are you not directing your query, to the finance
we believe
minister?
That because if you look at the...
So just so I get it clear, so that we can move on to the next paragraph. So in this paragraph where you say that the Speaker independently coerced the finance minister to make budgetary allocation, there is no evidence to back it. It's a question you're raising from what you've just explained.
There is evidence. The evidence is categorically clear in the letter that the Speaker of Parliament wrote to the President. In that letter, the Speaker of Parliament alluded to discussions he had with the President and earlier discussions he had with the Finance Minister. Okay. And so now it is that discussion that led to the budgetary allocation for the construction of the new chamber.
But you don't know that he coerced the finance minister to do so. Do you know
how else do we call a discussion between the Speaker of Parliament and Finance Minister to make budgetary...
No, Mr. Thompson.
Let me
end. Mr. Thompson, you will end, but my understanding, and I believe these are questions on the mind of my viewers, are still not answered as far as the use of the word coerced is concerned.
So my response is this. How does the Finance Minister make budgetary allocation for a project which has not received approval from even the Parliamentary Service Board, has not received approval from the floor of Parliament. The executive, according to the statement by the President, says he does not support the project. And then no approvals also from the Public Procurement Authority concerning this any competitive bid for this particular project. So the Speaker of Parliament have a discussion with the Finance Minister. Then the Finance Minister goes ahead and make budgetary allocation. I don't know how else you want to define coercion.
Coercion is forcing somebody to do something against their will. So the point is, you still have not provided enough
so the will
evidence
here is that the Finance Minister is a part of the executive. The executive says they do not support this particular project.
But do you have evidence to the effect that, apart from what the Speaker says, that there has been budgetary allocation, for which reason you say the Finance Minister was coerced into making that move?
Do we have to doubt the words or something that the Speaker of Parliament himself has written to the President? I don't have any reason to doubt what the Speaker of Parliament wrote to the President, that following discussions he had with the President and the Finance Minister, the Finance Minister has made budgetary allocation for this particular project, which he is inviting the President for a sword-cutting ceremony.
So you believe that based on these things that you've lined up, the Finance Minister was coerced into making budgetary allocations?
Yes, so if you put this aside and if you put the position of the executive that they do not support the project,
it makes you believe that the Finance Minister was forced. It makes you believe that the Finance Minister was forced to make that allocation.
Of course, if now they've come out to say that they don't support the project.
Okay, so that's your belief. Again, like I'm saying, I need to say here on the show that you have not provided evidence. Based on, you've just provided explanation, but we don't have evidence to the effect that he independently coerced the Finance Minister to make budgetary allocation. Again, another point that I want you to address, Mr. Thompson, is the point where you say that he single-handedly handpicked an architect to produce the designs of the now famous new Chamber of Parliament, a project which your high office, you're referring to the President, has now instructed to be suspended. How do we know that the Speaker single-handedly handpicked the architect who produced the designs?
Well, according to members of the Parliamentary Service Board, again, and according to the statement made by the minority leader, who is also a member of the Parliamentary Service Board, on the floor of Parliament, even at the Parliamentary Service Board level, the construction of this chamber, discussions on the construction of this chamber were inconclusive. It means they had not decided on the way forward on this particular project. How did Mr. David Ajay, the architect who designed this project, go ahead with the designs of the project? Recently, we saw the Speaker of Parliament with the architect, in Parliament, outdooring the designs for this particular project.
He said there was a bidding process. 3 companies had to bid for that position. One of them came out tops, and they chose that.
So how does a project which has not received approval at the Parliamentary Service Board level go into a bidding process for designs?
So again, you believe that the Speaker single-handedly chose Mr. Ajay, even though you do not have any documents to that effect?
We do.
Can you show us the documents?
We do.
Can you show us the document?
We'll be providing, that's why I'm saying that. You see, this is a petition. The President...
So let me just make this quick.
The President is going to constitute a panel to look into...
Mr. Thompson, this is on this platform, if anybody wants to take legal action, they will not take legal action because we said something that they feel is defamatory. They will not take legal action against you. They will take against you alone. They will take legal action against the platform. Again, I need to make this known to my viewers who are listening so that they can get the understanding and so they can follow. And I need to ask all these relevant questions. So when I ask about you not having evidence, if you have the evidence, you have not provided that evidence to us. And that's why we're asking you whether you have evidence to the effect that...
The President is going to constitute... Per the law, the President must constitute a panel to look into this petition, and we are going to be invited to put also our case in front of this committee.
So you have evidence?
Yes. So,
but you are not providing that evidence now on this platform?
This is the petition. No, you want sources. Most of the things that I've told you, most of the things can be found in the letters of the Speaker of Parliament, and also evidences which are already matter of public knowledge. For example, the statement that the minority leader made on the floor of Parliament is a matter of public knowledge. Okay, there are other additional documentations which during the sitting of this commission, which will look into this case, what we are called upon, we are going to be providing. You're going to be providing these documents. So the point that I made again is that if we have to make this point here on the show, on national television concerning somebody, then we will need much more. But let's move on to the next paragraph, in which you mentioned that the minority leader, who is a member of the service parliamentary service board, had said that the meeting was inconclusive. But on the Friday that the new edifice or the chamber complex was launched, did you see the minority leader there? He was there as well. Does that say whether or not his position, which you quote here as being inconclusive, made any difference in his presence there? Because his presence there, everybody read as his approval of that project. Well, it doesn't change anything. It absolutely does not change anything. The fact of the matter is that he alluded on the floor of Parliament, which is a House of Records, that at that committee level, where the discussions of the construction of this chamber took place, discussions were inconclusive. Now, I am quite curious. Even if discussions were inconclusive, then how did even the Speaker of Parliament arrive at the cost of this project to be $200 million? Okay, so just to clarification on that. The first time, the day he mentioned $200 million, it was as a different program. At this particular program, when they launched it, when he was asked, a journalist specifically asked a question about the cost, he said they're not sure yet how much it was going to cost. So just clarification. So move on with the point you're making. Yes, so you can see that, the public outcry on this particular project shows that there was absolutely not so much consultation done on this particular project. Okay. And I was expecting that for a huge project as this one, capital intensive project, couldn't there have been a way that the Speaker of Parliament or Parliament, the Parliamentary Service Board, have consulted with the executive to look into this matter, wider consultations, get wider views before any process began? So now we've spent monies in the design of the prototype of the building. Now the government says, no, I have no plans in constructing a new chamber. Now Parliamentary Service Board has come out and say we are not constructing this project anymore. So what happens with the monies that have been spent already on the project? How do we get it back? And so I think that Parliament just dropping the project is not just enough. Okay. We should see some actions, some punitive actions, so that in the future people in positions will be guided when they are taking some of these decisions on our behalf, okay, so that they don't contribute to unnecessary losses. The monies that have been expended by far can go into other developmental projects, can go in a long way to benefit the people. We cannot allow some of these monies to go down the drain just like that. And I think that the Speaker of Parliament must answer for that. So you want the Speaker of Parliament to answer, and the way you want him to answer is for him to be removed from his position, correct? Yes. And so, you see, this is a petition. This petition does not automatically, arrives or results to the removal of the Speaker of Parliament. Now, the Speaker of Parliament must appear before, a committee which is going to look into the merits of this particular matter. And like just any case, he will have a right to be heard, his position and why, so that. But you want him removed, isn't that the bottom line for you? Yes, of course. That is if he is found culpable of these allegations that have been leveled. Okay, so the way that you raise the issues in this document, which you say he have evidence to prove that he's done some wrong. You said he's abused, misbehavior contrary to the public procurement laws of Ghana, abuse of power and corruption. Yes, that is the grounds which we are relying on for him to activate this process. Okay? Now this process will lead to an investigation. The investigation will bring out the fact of the matter. And so we'll get to know the truth. We'll get to know how all these, procurement processes of the designs, we'll get to know all the details, because, I mean, this is also, this is not a court of public opinion, this is a court of facts. And so, I mean, the Speaker of Parliament is on Article 71 office holder. You don't just get up and remove an Article 71 office holder without any proper investigation.
Of course.
And so he will also have the right. Of course, he has the right to be heard. His position on these issues, must also, we need to listen to the side of the story. And so this is going to bring out all those facts.
But it's important, if you say this is a court of facts, it's important that we interrogate the fact as you provide them, to be sure that they are fact indeed and that there's evidence to back them. Let me read this last but one paragraph. It says, Mr. President, this we believe constitute, so you listed all of those things, and they say this we believe constitutes stated misconduct and abuse of office and provides enough grounds for the removal of the Speaker from office in accordance with the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. We believe the position of our Constitution is clear that in such petitions the President must act only as a conveyor belt to pass on the petition to the appropriate entity to sit on the matter and determine the validity of the grounds of such invocations, and therefore we believe that your high office will act accordingly, as there are several petitions invoking the jurisdiction. You go on, and you say this we believe is a clear violation of the Constitution, which Mr. President swore, essentially reminding the President of his responsibilities and asking that he removes the Speaker of Parliament after the investigation.
He acts as a conveyor belt.
He acts as a conveyor.
Give the petition to the appropriate agencies to look into the merits, and then it will go to Parliament, because Parliament will also have to vote on it, so the Parliament will vote on the proceedings or the outcome of the investigations, and if 3/4 of the members believe that the Speaker of Parliament must be removed from office, then he must be removed from the office. All
right. Has this petition been received by any entity?
Yes, of course, it has been received by the Office of the President today.
Okay, so this is actually the
our
release.
Copy that was received from the office.
Okay, so received by one Kingsley, and the date is 9/7/19, 2019, Office of the President. Okay, so did you get any response though?
Yes, the only response we got is that the President is out of the country, and so we'll get a response as soon as the President is back.
Okay, all right. So, Mr. Thompson will be here when the President takes action on this. We'll be here as well to share with our audience. Mensa Thompson is the Executive Director of ASEPA. They have just issued a release, and in this release, they are petitioning the President for the removal of Speaker of Parliament for what they're calling stated misbehavior contrary to the public procurement laws of Ghana and abuse of power as well as corruption. Mr. Thompson, thank you very much for coming.
Thanks, Gifty. Thanks for having me.
Meanwhile, Member of Parliament for Adanse Asokwa, Kobina Tahir Hammond, is blaming leadership of Parliament for creating unnecessary tension with the new chamber proposal. Katie Hammond told Aisha Ibrahim on PM Express that leadership of Parliament could have handled the issue better.
It's been badly handled by all sides. I mean, how can you come up with the development of this matter that the members of Parliament don't know about? I mean, you might say this is an indictment on ourselves. So be it. I heard it the first time on the radio. Okay. On the leadership, I mean, what is complaining? What is it? What is going on? This is a national issue. It's been unfortunate, what's happened about this. I just spoken to our leader, Oseche Mensah. For 20 minutes, he was also telling me about things he himself didn't also know, things that he didn't come to his knowledge.
And got to know today?
He was telling me today, but that apparently few things have been going on that the majority leader, even didn't know about. I mean, it's all been properly handled.
Katie Hammond there. He insists that Parliament needs a new chamber, and he asks that the current facility creates a lot of inconvenience. Listen.
And see. Number one, we don't have places of convenience. The one or two that we have out there, you get in there, the visitors, the public, the journalists, they take it. You would want to rush into the loo and then come back and make a statement. You go in there, it's all full. You can't, the one or two of them have members of Parliament. Go in there and see if any members of Parliament is taken. We don't have a restaurant. The little place that we occasionally get some water or that, go and see. Press, visitors and everybody. It's so insecure. You have no clue what to do. I mean, it is not, I mean, when we talk about Parliament, and people are talking about comparing Ghana to Westminster Parliament, who is talking about Westminster Parliament?
Who is talking about Westminster Parliament? Well, that video is trending on social media already. If you found it, you can still share it, even though the chamber has been dropped. For now, they say. Hashtag continues to be dropped. That chamber march has been suspended, by the way, following Parliament's decision to shelve the construction of that new chamber complex. The 2 million march pressure movement organized that dropped the chamber campaign called it off. It was slated for the 13th of July, which is supposed to happen somewhere next week, but it's been taken down because because Parliament itself seems to have dropped the chamber. They say it's for now, but the campaign continues.